OTAs are starting for this week, and your Denver Broncos have a massive problem. How on earth do you get this top defense down to 25 guys without being absolutely regretful of a player that you cut who is starting on another team? In this video, we are breaking down the top positional battles to watch this week in OTAs, and who do I think is going to make the team, who is going to get cut, and what are we going to regret the absolute least. It's a great problem to have, but a problem nonetheless. I don't need to remind you, but the Denver Broncos had a top 3 scoring defense last year, but unlike the top defense in the league, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Denver Broncos are returning every single starter and actually upgrading at all the positions, whereas the Los Angeles Chargers are losing 4 defensive starters. So we are in fantastic position. You remember this stat that we showed just last week that the Broncos have the top sack duo in the league. Then we're getting 5 sacks out of our undrafted free agent, Dondre Tillman. We're getting 5 sacks out of our rookie edge rusher, Jonah Ellis. Like, we have a plethora of riches, a platoon of outside edge rushers. I don't need to remind you that we also have the best player on defense in the entire game of football. We got Riley Moss healthy. We got pretty much a top 10 talent in Jahdae Barrett. And then you take a look at the only problems that this defense had was that our inside linebacker was weak going into last season. We lose Alex Singleton in game 3 to an ACL, and we're down to like our backup inside linebacker, and we replace him with everybody's like favorite inside linebacker, who is a monster, who the 49ers wanted so bad that they flew out to his house and said, please come back. And he said, no, I'm going to Denver. And that's obviously Dre Greenlaw. We are getting our top tackler back from 2 years ago, and just a captain and a great guy on and off the field, and Alex Singleton. This team is nasty, and the question is, how do you get it down to 25? So let's go position by position through last year, how many guys we brought to the final 53. What are my predictions this year? Let's start where it all begins, which is getting pressure on your quarterback and our edge rush. So our defensive line, right? This defensive line in Vance Joseph's system is a 3-4 defense that is always attacking. Zach Allen talked about how this defense, like, people want to come and play for it, because you are not, if you are one of those 3 on the defensive line, your job is to rush in no matter what. You're not waiting and reacting to see if it's a run or a pass. You are getting upfield, and he talked about last offseason how different that is. So last year we had 6 defensive linemen who went into the season. This year I'm predicting again it is 6, but instead of last year we had Jordan Jackson. I don't think he is going to make this this roster, although last year he did play in 17 regular season games. He had a forced fumble, and he had a sack last year, so that would be kind of hard to see him not make this team. But I think with the fact that we got Savion Jones out of LSU, some folks were saying that was the absolute sleeper. I think you just swap those 2 dudes. It would be amazing to have Jordan Jackson back, another Colorado kid. He went to the Air Force Academy. It'd be cool to have him. I just think that he doesn't make the roster, and I don't think he would be able to fall to our practice squad just because, you know, he played in 17 games last year. He is young and has a very high upside. So you're talking 6 last year, 6 this year. Let's go to the outside linebacker. This is, you know, the way Vance Joseph uses this guy is that they can be on the line and create pressure. And you could blitz one, or have one come in on the quarterback and one drop into pressure. You could bring them both for a 5-man rush, and Vance Joseph is amazing at doing that. Last year, we only brought 4, and they had incredible production. Like, you look at what Nick Bonito did with Jonathan Cooper, what Nick Bonito did with Dondre Tillman, what Nick Bonito did with Jonah Ellis. All of these guys are fantastic. So I think it is impossible to only carry 4, even though we traded Baron Browning last year. This year, I think we bring 5 or potentially 6. So if we're going 2 more than we did last year, that means we need to cut 2 guys later, and that's going to be hard to do. But I think for sure you are now putting Q Robinson in that mix. Again, people talking about him being the steal of this draft. Nick Saban said he was the best special teams player he ever coached. So I think he makes this roster, and I think he could play in special teams, but I think you're going to see him also play in real games here. And then the dark horse candidate would be bringing in Johnny Walker, because if you take a look at some of his film when he played at Mizzou, I love this one in particular because it is going up against the bell of the draft for the Kansas City Chiefs, their left tackle. You just see him absolutely get beat there off the edge. So if our undrafted guy is beating the guy that you picked in the first round, that is not a good sign for you. But again, if Johnny Walker makes this team and we bring in Q Robinson makes this team, then you're talking we're 2 over. We got to find a spot to somehow cut elsewhere. We're going to look at where that might happen here in a second. Now, the position I think, bar none, that the Broncos improved most upon last year is our inside linebacker. Remember last year, we went into the season with Drew Sanders on injured reserve because he hurt his Achilles during last offseason, so you don't get to hide him now on your injured reserve, so he has to make the team. And then obviously we get Alex Singleton back, and then obviously we have one of the best inside linebackers in football if he stays healthy, and that is Dre Greenlaw. I do not think that because of Dre Greenlaw's injury history that you can get by with just carrying 4. And I think last season we saw what happens when you just carry 4 at the end of the season. Remember, we got Quan Alexander, and he came up for a game. We had Justin Stranad start, and so I think you have to have at least 5. And here are the 5 that I think. Lavelle Bailey is a potential cut candidate, although I hope we don't, because you remember, like, Lavelle Bailey just balled out of control, just seeing him. This is him back in college. Ending this game here against UNLV with a dropping back. He acted like he was blitzing, drop back and get the pick, and you don't have to just look to college for him getting picks. I remember this last year in the preseason game when he did a house call, right, and just picked it off. You remember he was an undrafted guy, but he was the guy that Sean Payton called not only once, but called him twice to convince him to come to the Denver Broncos. And he said, I think you can make the Broncos roster. And he took him up on that offer. There are so few guys in the undrafted guys who coaches actually reach out to. And so the fact that Sean Payton identified him and called him twice shows you what Sean Payton thinks about him. Again, if you cut Justin Stranad or Lavelle Bailey, there's no chance that either of those guys make it to your practice squad. And so really, again, you're talking, we want to carry one more outside linebacker. Now we want to carry one more inside linebacker. That's going to be hard to do without cutting somewhere else. So I don't know what you do. Both Stranad and Lavelle Bailey are fantastic special teams players as well, and I see him making an impact there. So that's, again, a tough decision the Broncos are going to have to make. Now going back, here's a position where we could potentially cut just because of how fantastic the guys are that we have and the depth that we have, especially because we had a Jahdae Barron. So we're talking about the cornerback position. Obviously, we know we have the best corner in football, and that's not a homer take. That's what the NFL thinks. I think Riley Moss, when healthy, is a Pro Bowl type talent, and the only time he struggled last year was coming back after that knee injury that he got injured in that game against the Vegas Raiders on kind of a dirty hit there, and he really wasn't himself again until the playoffs and was kind of exposed. And when he did come back, it was up against the Cincinnati Bengals, which is a hard task for anyone. Obviously, we added Jahdae Barron, immediate starter in your nickel package. I think he is guarding the slot. He is going to shut down guys like Ladd McConkey all season long. And you are talking about our top 3. That's the best cornerback trio in football. There's no question about it. So now you're talking Jaquan McMillan and Chris Abrams-Drain, both fantastic. We saw Chris Abrams-Drain when he came in after Riley Moss got hurt, and he picked off Justin Herbert in the red zone. So you are in very, very good position there, and I feel confident that talent-wise, those 5 are fantastic. The question becomes, like, if one of those drops. We saw last year when Riley Moss went out and we had to put Levi Wallace in, and Levi Wallace had his lunch handed to him by Jerry Jeudy. So you might see Sean Payton want to carry 6 just because if one of those guys gets injured, you are in trouble right away. And so one of the questions is, Damari Mathis, does he make the team? If he does, you're talking 6, which means you can't carry more at other positions. I feel confident with the Broncos going 5 at this position, which gives us the ability to either bring in another inside linebacker or bring another outside linebacker. Let me know in the comments what you think. Then let's go safety. Again, a massive upgrade in the fact that the Broncos went and got Huffanga, not just a Pro Bowler, an all-pro player, and probably the linchpin to bring Dre Greenlaw here. That once Huffanga signed here, Dre Greenlaw said, hey, I want to be on the same team as Huffanga. That's my guy. So that's a massive upgrade. The way he plays is with reckless abandon, and he is a heat-seeking missile. And so he does have somewhat injury concerns, not like he's going to tear an ACL or something like that, but he might ding up a shoulder, hurt a wrist, something like that. And so you want to have depth here. Last year, the Broncos carried 5 of them. And really the odd man out is either going to be PJ Locke or JL Skinner. JL Skinner is again, another heat-seeking missile, a guy from Boise State. And I know I like to hate on Boise State when we're talking about Ashton Genty, but you watch JL Skinner, and just the way he hits is like he uproots dudes off of their feet, and it is just a special teams monster as well. So I feel like he's got to make this roster. And if you're carrying him, the other thing the Broncos did this offseason at the safety position, look at the way he hits dudes. It's just, he is absolutely plays with reckless abandon, and I think he's going to make this roster because of his special teams addition. The Broncos also went out and got Sam Franklin, who played safety for the Carolina Panthers. I think there's a couple highlights of him house calling and doing picks against Sam Darnold, I think is the one I saw. But a special teams addition right there. So he's going to make the roster just for special teams. So either PJ Locke or JL Skinner are going to not make this team, which I think those are probably the most likely to be cut, which would be a bummer because PJ Locke is one of my favorite Denver Broncos, dating back to that game against Detroit 2 seasons ago where the week before he had a rib injury against the Los Angeles Chargers, and he was not cleared to hop on an airplane. And so he rented an RV and had a coach drive him the 18 hours from Denver to Detroit and played in a Sunday Night Football game, hopped in an RV and drove back. So you're like, doctors are like, you're not okay enough to fly in an airplane, but you're okay enough to fly around a football game. Just doesn't even make sense. But so that's the type of attitude you want. You want that young and hungry, and that's the type of really like culture you want in the Broncos locker room. But he could be the odd man out, and that would be an absolute bummer. So we look, last season we had 6 defensive linemen. I think we have 6 again. 4 outside linebackers. I think this is one where I'd like one more. 4 inside linebackers. I'd like one more. We had 6 corners. This is where we could potentially chop one down, but really PJ Locke, Jaquan McMillian, Justin Strnad, Lavelle Bailey, JL Skinner, a couple of those guys aren't going to make this team, and it's going to be a massive, massive bummer to me. So where are these? Am I spot on? Which of these am I off on? Let me know. Sound off in the comments. And then maybe the most important question of all is, like, this defense was a top 3 defense last year, and it just got better. So we need a name for this, because I think this defense is going to be right on par with our no-fly zone defense that won us the Super Bowl, Manning's last year here in Denver. So we need a name for them because they're going to be that good. So through a couple live streams, through a couple emails with friends and people commenting, I got a couple names for you on here. Shout out to Andrew, who gave me a couple of these, but which of these get you the most hyped, or throw down another name that is even cooler? So we going no fly zone 2.0, because like our secondary is arguably better than our secondary there during our no fly zone 1.0. I loved this one, especially knowing that it's Memorial Day. Restricted airspace, because it has a cool acronym, RAS. Like, man, you can't throw on us, but you can't really run on us either. So it's restricted airspace. Then I like Zero Dark 30. So like the idea of playing on that. So either like Cyber Zero defense or Zero Dark Denver. Either of those are really cool. Whatever you call them, they're going to be nasty. They're going to be good. I hope y'all had a fantastic Memorial Day. And shout out to everyone who served our country. It's the best place to live. And Broncos, it's the best team to root for. And that's a ton to Bo-LIEVE in. Woo! Let's go.